Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 195. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mike Martin. Today, joined by the Julian Barat and Noel Fielding of LA.
Okay.
Jesse and Alex.
Okay.
You know that name? You know them?
Yeah. Noel Fielding is like extremely known.
The Mighty Boosh.
Yeah.
Is extremely known.
As Jesse looks massively confused.
He's like the host of Bake Off now. He's like huge.
That's why I recognize him. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm aware of who they are. I just thought it was apt to just like, yes,
Yeah.
I know that they are known.
He is known.
Oh, well, which one is which?
I have heard that he is known. Huh?
Who's who?
Which one is which? I don't know. I think there's a little Noel Fielding in each of us, Jesse. I think there's like two sides to Noel Fielding, and I think we exemplify each of those sides of him quite well.
I'm sure. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know that I am a Noel, but
I'll take Noel.
yeah.
Like I said, he's widely known.
Jesse is absolutely baffled I know you can't see his face, but he looks so confused.
I just don't remember who the other person's name was. Julian Barat?
Julian Barat. Yeah.
I don't think I'm a Julian either. I don't think I'm either of them.
The thing that's the weirdest thing about the Chilluminati show in the late 100s episode numbers is that at the beginning of every single episode, all three of the hosts spend a significant amount of time talking about a pair of British comedians that they barely know anything about.
But to be fair, we haven't done this for 195 episodes. Like I started this late in our life.
This is late hundreds numeration. This is one of the features of this period in our lives. Like if it's like Van Gogh and this is like the blue period, this is the British comedian duos period.
Are you excited? Wow, we're 5 episodes away from hitting episode 200.
I wonder what we're gonna do for episode 200, man. That's crazy.
I don't know. I have so I'm curious. Yeah, we'll talk. I'm curious.
I wonder because it would be weird if one of us had a plan. It'd be wild if one of us had a plan.
I don't think I'm either of them. I'm looking at. I
Jesse's
can't figure it out.
Jesse's coming out of the research
I don't think I'm
hole.
either of those guys.
You have to pick one.
I can't.
You must.
One, I clearly see in a closet in IT crowd, and the other is very much not me in any possible way.
All right, I'll be Noel Fielding and you be Sandy Toksvig.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like that's good.
Who's that?
Yeah.
That's the other host of Bake Off. Well, actually, it's now Matt Lucas, but Sandy Toksvig, I think, is Jesse's more of a Sandy than a Matt.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse will be anybody if you pay him enough.
Sandy's also the host of QI.
You know what? She's great. Yeah.
If I could put Jesse in one job, it would be to make him the host of the American QI. If I had like $1 billion, that's what I would
a great
give
idea,
to
honestly.
the
I
American.
love that.
it. Yeah.
I would give that to the American people.
Jesse, for like I said, for any amount of money, you'll be whoever anybody wants, right? Is there like a limit? Like if they paid you
what?
like $100 million for you to role play as somebody?
Oh, well, see, that's that's different.
Mercenary mindset, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
If somebody said, Jesse, I want to bang you, but you have to pretend you're Hitler the whole time.
And I'm being paid $100 million?
Is that what this episode's about?
Banging Hitler?
Segues. Hang on. We'll get there.
I don't think that's good. The other day I saw there's a game on Steam that was that specific thing. So
Wow.
What?
Yeah, I know. I'm not even joking. Welcome to the internet, everyone.
Answer the question, Jesse. Yes or no?
What do you mean? Would I for 100? I'd do pretty much anything for $100 million. $100 million?
$100 million.
I'd do pretty much. Question: before or after taxes?
We'll say it's after taxes. It's a clean $100 million.
No, I'd do anything. I would. If there's any like rich princes out there that need me to do something,
Where can they give us that money, actually, Alex?
I think that if you wanted to do something similar to that, I think maybe not quite that. Let's say that. Let's put that out there. If you want to do something that's not quite like what Matt has said,
Yeah, not quite that.
but similar to it, you can head over to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod, where no one will ask you to act like Hitler during copulation. However,
I love
you
that.
will get
I don't even know what that
access.
means.
Wow,
Like,
but
would
you
you
have
read
a
a
word.
speech? What? Like, what would you?
I don't know. Just
I
be
don't
like,
you just shout a lot while you're like with every thrust.
Yeah. Would you want me
No.
to paint?
I don't speak German. First of all, like I don't speak a lick. I don't speak a lick of German. I don't know shit. The illusion immediately falls apart when I'm like, how does he act?
No, it means at the end of copulation, you put a shotgun in your mouth, you pull the trigger.
Oh,
I don't think it was a shotgun, but
Did he not? Was it not a shotgun?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think Hitler pulled out his shotty. I feel.
I don't know. I thought he did. Hang on. It's time to Google. What did Hitler shoot himself with?
Ava, get me my shotgun.
Shooting by. Oh, what a bitch.
There's no way he had a shotgun down there.
He swallowed cyanide first and then shot himself in the head with, I'm assuming, a pistol.
Well, there we go.
How did we get here?
Here's one thing here's one thing you know. I want you all to know about all three hosts of the Chilluminati podcast. We think Adolf Hitler sucks.
All right, guys, do you smell that?
Is it burning toast?
Dude, I don't know what's going on right now.
What's that smell?
Are you
Is it
okay?
the smell of,
do you know?
No, not true crime. But cooking human flesh.
He's gone.
Did he die? Bro, did he die? What just happened?
Dude, he's gone.
What just happened? Like we're in like a psychedelic like dream nightmare right now. I don't know what happened to Mathis. He's gone.
The man said, "Do you smell burning toast?" And then vanished.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, we're still live.
We're still recording, I guess.
We have been fully connected this whole time.
Oh
no
my
loss
God.
to our signal at all, and we just watched you go into the shadow realm just now. I think somebody from our future found out that we started talking about Hitler on the podcast and jumped in to stop things from getting any further than they had gone. What the fuck just happened? You know what, Dean? Godspeed, sir.
Yeah, Godspeed, homie. I don't know what.
Dude, do not edit any of that out. That was hilarious.
Wait till the animated version of that comes out. That was crazy.
All I was saying is I smelled the smell of cooking human flesh. Do you smell it?
Why is that? What are you fucking shit?
What are you talking about?
Why would you?
What is the through line? What is the through line?
I'm told it smells and tastes a lot like bacon and pork, actually.
Why are you on this?
It's also, don't worry, Jesse, it's also the smell of
The
truth.
internet tried to stop you and gave you an out. It gave you an out, Mathis. You could have walked away. We didn't have to come back here. We didn't have to talk about this.
Rule 1 of improv, commit to the bit. You don't stop. You just keep going.
Oh my God, that's true. You don't
I don't
stop.
think that's true.
Because the smell of human flesh is also the smell
You
of
don't have to keep talking about it.
true crime. It's the smell of true crime as well.
Oh, we're here.
Hey!
We're here. The obvious segue has been revealed.
Thank you. We had to get there. Mostly
Mathis
we're
is doing some more truth.
I've been excited for this I've been excited for this for a while, but if I keep thinking about aliens, I'm gonna jump off of a bridge.
I've been watching Mathis unravel in the chat. It's not good. Don't ask him.
It's getting worse.
Don't ask him about the photos. Don't ask him.
Don't. God damn it, Jeremy Corbell. And then you know what's worse? About a couple days later, enough like people have kind of talked about it and picked it apart that there might actually be some legitimacy to these photos, because it's what you learn is that it's a heat photo. So the object we're seeing is not hot, it's ice cold. And the thing we're seeing and behind it isn't a contrail, it's a wake trail from it moving so fast. So if it was a missile, you would think it would be hot. I don't know. I can't do this right now. We can't do this right now.
I get it. So instead, what did you decide to lighten the mood?
I'm going back to a world that makes sense to me. 1800s America and the world of true crime, but 1800s America, so it's going to be fun. Dude, this is another story filled with great names, weird situations, and moments that you're like, this can't be real. So before we actually begin,
that's like this podcast so far, actually.
You know what? You're right. Jesse, I'm going to send into Twitter a little ballad for you to read through. It's short, don't worry.
6 miners went into the mountains to hunt for precious gold. It was the middle of the winter. The weather was dreadful cold.
Oh, I think Twitter might be making extra paragraphs.
6 miners went into the mountains. The had nor food nor shack. 6 miners went into the mountains, but only one came back.
What you just read, Jesse, is known as the Ballad of Alfred Packer, written sometime in the 19th century. We don't have an exact date for it.
My, I know this story.
Not to be confused with the song The Ballad of Alfred Packer by Philip Ochs in 1964. Are you familiar with that tune?
No. I'm not familiar with the
Let me
tune.
give you boys a sample. Let me give you a little sample of what this is like. Hang on.
Okay. Can't wait to hear this.
This is the Ballad of Alfred Packer,
Nice intro
an
so far.
infamous guide in the Old West. In the state of Colorado in the year of 74, they crossed the San Juan Mountains, gold hungry to the core. Their guide was Alfred Packer, they trusted him too long, for his character was weak and his appetite was strong.
And that's a little taste of the song. You can go take a listen
Can we
to it.
take a minute? Hold on. Can you play from the beginning again?
Absolutely.
This is the Ballad of Alfred Packer, an infamous guide in the Old West.
Are you trying to figure out what the woman is saying?
No, I'm trying to figure out that opening bit right there. The music is, I'm almost positive, the opening to the song Tribute by Tenacious D.
Is it really?
Pretty sure it's the exact same opening.
Did we just crack open a mystery right now that we didn't even know existed?
I think, probably Jables is a big fan,
Maybe.
of the ballad, yeah.
Yeah, that song is really fun. It's like, let's look it up again. It's by a man by the name of Phil Ochs, O-C-H-S. I had never heard of him before. And that song was specifically released in 1964. But other than that, there was also a 1980 biopic about Alfred Packer that was pretty much entirely fictitious called The Legend of Alfred Packer. And in 1993, the musical Cannibal the Musical
That's the way I know this story.
is very, very, very loosely based on his story.
Right.
So, if you've seen any of those, you have a general idea of who he is. But it's not quite truthful. It's a lot of
last one, the musical, is like a student project from Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Did you know that?
Really? I did not know that at all. That's wild.
It's fucking hilarious. It's so worthwhile. It's like it's like if you're like at your house smoking your big ass bong, listening to the Chilluminati podcast, what you should do after this episode, after subbing to our Patreon, of course, is to literally just immediately turn on Cannibal the Musical by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and it will be a great companion piece to this story.
That's a great idea. I might go do that after this as well because I haven't seen it.
It's hilarious. So. It's short too. It's
awesome.
It's like a student film from when they were at CU, I think.
Well, I don't know what it is about the 1800s era where it seems more cannibals are willing to go to Cannibal Town.
It's a very trauma-friendly time.
Yeah, this is like the same era that Boone Helm was doing his thing out in the wild and almost
dying.
People
just didn't start giving a fuck till like 1915.
Yeah, there was.
You think that's what it was, and not like the inability to find food in the winter, or
who are you gonna tell if you're like, hey, somebody ate this guy? Somebody's gonna be like, oh shit, okay. Who are you gonna tell? The sheriff?
Again, like Boone Helm, his issue was like he kept going out knowing he couldn't do it, and yet he kept going out anyway over and over again, and he kept getting his ass saved.
He walked into a room and like shot a man and left, and he was like fine. He didn't like go to jail. You know what I mean? Like
no.
Like that's a different world. Like that's a world where nobody gives a fuck. I'm telling you, 1915,
it is a
1920. That's about the time that people actually started to be like, wait, you can't do that. Before that, if you just like beat the shit out of somebody, everyone would be like, that guy probably deserved it.
I mean, you're not wrong. And you're going to see little snippets of that in this story. Yeah, the story of Alfred Packer is not quite like Boone Helm. By all accounts, Packer was a much more decent man, not a good man, but unlike Boone Helm, wasn't a serial killer, always on the edge of stabbing somebody.
He was real hungry.
Yeah, real hungry. Yeah. But Packer was definitely prone to fancifying his life a bit. He liked to lie to make himself seem way more important or cool than he actually was. And he was just a man who, in the end, kind of got put into a terrible situation and didn't necessarily make the best decisions when it came to survival and how to go about it. But we'll see that in part 2. There will be a 2-part episode series.
Oh, shit.
No, this is more of a story of ambition, poor decisions, and in the end, the loss of unnecessary life, potentially at the hand of Alfred Packer. In this 2-parter, we'll be looking at Packer's life both before and after the mining expedition that changed his life forever. But as always, before we dive into it, a shout out to the main source for today's episode by one of, definitely my favorite true crime author, Harold Schechter, a book by the name of Man Eater. It is such a great read. I don't think there's anything by this man I've read that I didn't like. This is another really good read. And if you want all the details.
What other ones has he done?
I mean, we did. Ed Gein he was a main source for Ed Gein. He has a bit about Dahmer in one of his books that I used as part of the Dahmer research. He's done, I think he's did Ed Kemper, which we'll be doing at some point in the future.
That's the one from Mindhunter, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So Schechter's just a very well-versed true crime author, one of the best out there. I freaking love his stuff.
Shout outs.
Yeah, big shout outs. Please go read it. If you want to know all the gritty details that I'm not going to cover here, he does a great job at laying out how he found the information, how he tracked it all down. It was great. Thank you to ButcherBox for putting meat in my mouth, and also for sponsoring today's episode. Food's getting expensive, man. There's no way around it. I am looking at the price of food every day and trying to see if I can find a way to save myself a little bit of money without skimping on the quality of the product. Luckily, premium meals don't have to come at premium price, and ButcherBox is there to help you take that most expensive, most important part and make it part of your meal. That's also part of your budget. ButcherBox can provide you with the best meat and seafood on the planet so you can whip up quality meals on whatever budget you've got. What do you think of when you hear high quality meals? Is it delicious marbling in that steak? A nice piece of chicken breast? I'm rubbing myself saying it. You can't even see it. I actually just used a few of the chicken cutlets that the ButcherBox had sent me recently to make just like a lemony herb spaghetti, and it was freaking delicious. I mean, I've had ButcherBox now for a while, so it's always delicious, and if I wasn't eating it, I wouldn't be paying for it. And it's just the best way to get the meats that I want for meals that I know I'm going to be making for that week and know I'm getting a high quality with it. And I'm not paying all that much for it either. Personally, because I'm lazy, it's the convenience that really is my favorite thing. And you know what? ButcherBox loves you too. So much so that they're going to give you some chicken nuggies. You're going to get free chicken nuggets for a year and 10% off your first box when you sign up today. That's a 22-ounce bag of gluten-free chicken nuggets in every order for a year when you sign up at butcherbox.com/chill and use code CHILL. Claim this deal, butcherbox.com/chill, promo code CHILL, and get yourself some chicken nuggies for a year. Alfred Packer was born on November 12th, 1842 in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, to parents James Packer and Esther Griner. He would be one of 8 kids in his family. This is the time where like kids were a labor source. You know, they were like, got to pump them out because we need little hands working around our land. Otherwise, we're going to have to hire people, and that costs money. And I know what you're thinking. Obviously, is Alfred Packer related to the famous Asa Packer, one railroad pioneer and founder of Lake University? Right, boys? That was.
Oh yeah, that's where I was at. I was like,
I was there.
Good.
I was there with
like,
you.
Actually, I was thinking like, what British comedian is Jesse Cox like? Is what I was. I couldn't get out of my mind.
Well, despite Alfred himself claiming that he was indeed related to this particularly powerful and well-known woman, the truth was simply that he wasn't. He lied about it until the day he died. Shortly
See,
after,
that's what I'm saying. Nobody could check.
how are you going to fact check that unless you walk up to her himself? You're like, I have the same last
Nobody
name.
give a fuck.
Yeah. Exactly. Shortly after Alfred was born, their father decided to move the family to LaGrange, Indiana, and became an active member within the local Methodist Episcopal Society. But beyond this point, what we know about Alfred's childhood is about as deep as a puddle. We have nothing on this man's life until about age 18 or 19. Anything before that is kind of purely mystery, barring one important fact. Packer growing up was known to fall into very violent seizures, the beginnings of a disorder that would bother him and trouble him until his death, something that we now know as grand mal seizures, for which at the time, all they called it was seizures and it could absolutely do nothing to help it. And if you're wondering
what are they called?
Grand mal seizures. It's a type of seizure that involves a loss of consciousness and violent muscle contractions. A grand mal seizure is usually caused by epilepsy, but may have other triggers such as very low blood sugar, high fever, or even a stroke. The seizure has 2 stages. Loss of consciousness occurs first, lasts about 10 to 20 seconds, followed by muscle convulsions that last for less than 2 minutes.
Sheesh.
Yeah, if you have this, you need to be on daily seizure medication to keep it at bay because it's just constant.
Is it MALL or MAUL?
MAL, one L.
MAL.
Yeah. It's
Big,
so not
bad
like
seizures.
Darth Maul.
No, not like Darth Maul. That'd be freaking
reveal
sick.
ourselves to the Jedi. right? No,
really
no, no.
big bad seizures.
Yeah, big bad
Con-
seizures.
Wow.
This is something he suffered from childhood. There's nothing people could do to treat it, and it would just haunt him his whole life. It would be a few months before his 19th birthday that we actually get kind of our first look into Packer's life. And at the moment we get to look at is one that would change his life forever. It was when the bombardment of Fort Sumter hit, as we know, started the Civil War. A month later, Packer was off to join the Union Army, where he registered in April of 1862, joining the 16th Regiment of U.S. Infantry at Winona, Minnesota. So he just was like right on off. And the only thing we really know beyond him having seizures is this, that he joined the Army. I have no idea what his life was before that. We only know what he looked like at this time because he actually joined the Army and due to his enlistment form physical description. At this time, at 19, Alfred, or just about 19 rather, Alfred was 5'8", with fair complexion, blue eyes, and hair that more than one person described as coal black. So he had like very dark hair.
Yeah.
When he was shipped off to Ohio for training after arriving, he quickly and proudly adorned his right arm with a tattoo that displayed his name, rank, and regiment. So he was just immediately super excited to join, got it tattooed.
Kind of wild to put your rank on your tattoo, right?
Yeah, it said 16th Regiment, all that stuff. But there was one small issue with the tattoo. Alfred wasn't a learned man, and his name was spelt wrong. Instead of saying Alfred Packer, it said Alfred Packer. He switched the E and the R in his name. So Alfred
Nobody
Packer
was like, you sure, dude?
No, nobody. Probably because none of them could read. I'm sure many of them had no idea.
Nobody gave a shit about anything until like 1915. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. And this actually, he wasn't the only one of his family that couldn't spell their own name. One of his sisters, I think, was 3 years older, if I remember correctly. Melissa spelt her name consistently Melissa with an A instead of an E. And it just, again, lack of education. It points to that he obviously didn't go to school as a kid. He was a manual labor guy on the land that they moved into. So yeah, for the rest of his life, not only does it say Alfred Packer, but if you actually go to his wiki, which is a great little quick resource on like a quick highlights, at the very top in the tab, it's labeled Alfred Packer. So Jesse, go ahead and Jesse's going to check it out right now. Yeah, you can do it right now. You can see it at the top in the actual Wikipedia URL as well. It's all spelled.
Oh,
Alfred.
yeah, you're right. Alfred.
That's so funny. It really is.
Yeah, I think that's freaking hilarious.
Alfred Packer.
Yeah, it's like one of the weird running jokes that sticks with this man. Don't read the wiki. Don't spoil yourself on the story.
I'm not gonna.
All right. Eventually,
I didn't expect how much he was going to look like Rasputin.
It's just the time period, man. Life sucked out there. It's just you could be 20 and look like you were 60. It's wild. But eventually, we do know that Alfred at some point learned to spell his name because later forms in his life indicated that because he began spelling his name correctly in other forms. His stint in the Army, while he did sign up for 3 years, ended very quickly and kind of sadly. Just after Christmas in 1862, just 8 months after signing up, Packer received a disability discharge at Fort Ontario for, quote, being incapable of performing necessary duties because of epilepsy. At the bottom of the form was a place for the doctor to write how often these events happened, and it simply said, quote, all the time. He was having seizures constantly. But as the paper trail leads us, he didn't give up on the Army quite yet. After getting discharged, he wandered westward, where in Iowa, he enlisted for the Union Cavalry. And because we're living in an era where people can't talk to each other, they had no idea that this man was discharged.
Why would you even ever get on a fucking horse if you have these?
I was thinking the same thing.
Dude, there's going to be a lot of questions you're going to ask about this man that point to him maybe not being the most intelligent dude in the world.
It's like a 7-foot fall for your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He sounds a lot like John Locke from Lost, where he's like, don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, bro, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's got that. It's very much that. And
it's like that scene.
So many examples of him being stubborn as fuck to his own detriment.
It's like that scene from Lost where Locke smiles at the camera with the orange, but it's like a fucking human heart or some shit in his mouth.
I have never seen the show, but I hear
what a great character.
No context. No context needed.
He wandered off to Iowa, joined the cavalry, and we know during this time with the cavalry, he wound up in Tennessee on duty to defend Nashville because of a note written by the regimental scribe docking Packer $2.50 from his pay, which is a little more than $50 in today money, for, quote, plundering citizens of Nashville.
Well,
Whoa.
whatever. That's like one value meal at McDonald's these days.
Yeah, these days. Yeah, the dude was guarding Nashville and also robbing the citizens of Nashville at the same time.
They were like, all right, give us $50. Now stop all that robbing you're doing.
Yeah, they didn't kick him out of he stayed in the cavalry after that. They didn't
Clean
kick
it
him
up.
out.
Stop that robbing.
Yeah, that's it.
You can stay, but don't rob anymore.
Pretty much. That's exactly what happened. But when April of 1863 rolled around, which is the exact, like about 1 year exactly from when he joined back in 1862, Packer would be discharged once again for the very same reasons, with this doctor noting that he'd been unfit for duty for the past 60 days and, quote, the paroxysms occur once every 48 hours and sometimes as often as 2 or 3 times every 48 hours. To give you an idea of how often Packer was having these seizures. He was plagued by these seizures, and it got him kicked out of the army again. I don't know what he was expecting. He lasted way less time in the cavalry. I don't know if they were like, he was going to have a seizure on a horse at some point, and that would have been a disaster.
I feel like it had to happen day one.
You would think that would happen in day one. You would hope it would happen in day one. It did not happen in day one. The years following his dismissal found Packer drifting even further and further west. We know he worked various jobs to make some money just to keep him going. Like he was a trapper, a teamster, and a hunter/wilderness guide for people, which is, I can't imagine went well. Eventually, his drifting landed him where it landed a lot of veterans of the Civil War, out in Colorado, where the gold and silver mines beckoned anyone willing to gamble their entire lives moving there at potential riches beyond their wildest imaginations. It was that time, it was just like mines were constantly being discovered and taken from the native people. And it was just a lot of people saw easy money, so everybody fucking made it there. We also know at some point during this time that he lost 2 of his fingers in a mining accident, landing him a job that was known as a jackwhacker. Boys, before I tell you what a jackwhacker is, what do you think a jackwhacker is? A man with 2 fingers can be a jackwhacker.
So if you have a jack and you're jacking, then I imagine someone has to undo the jack. Is that it?
I don't even know what you're talking about. So no.
A jackwhacker. You need 2 fingers to do this?
You don't need 2 fingers, but somebody missing 2 fingers can still do it. They can still do it.
I don't know. No clue.
Can somebody with 1 finger do it?
I would say, yeah. I would say they could.
Can somebody with no hands do it?
That might be difficult. You would need your hands.
A jackwhacker is somebody who you pay to jack you off.
Yeah, you get that 2-finger crab grip, dude. Yeah, we love to hear it. No, it's way more boring than both of those. All he got to do was lead long strings of pack mules filled with supplies for the miners who were actually doing the mining. That's all.
Sick.
He became just a boring labor guy. And of course, during all of this, the seizures did not stop at all. One of his co-miners, I guess is what that's what I wrote down, but now I'm saying it out loud and it sounds really weird. One of the miners he mined with stated, quote, at frequent intervals, he would fall to the ground and struggle to a terrible degree. He would then be prostrate for several days, unable to perform any labor. So, he wasn't very good at doing the whole mining thing. Seizures once again ruined his dream at being a miner, at least there. And it's at that point we lose Alfred Packer to history for a while. For an entire decade. It isn't until that decade passes that he pops back up, and this time we find him in Utah, making his way to Bingham Canyon, where he would work as a copper miner for a time. Before, what do you think got him out? No, it's not seizures. Seizures did not force him to not be a miner this time.
Robbery.
Nope, not that either. Wholly new problem arises for our dear Alfred Packer. He was sickened with lead poisoning and had to stop working.
I mean, that checks out. Sounds right.
This man has lost 2 fingers, has constant seizures, robbed people, and now has lead poisoning.
What year is this again?
We're in like 1866-ish, 7-ish.
You got off easy. I'll be real. This is this is the 1800 special right here.
What's funny is that he, beyond this event that we'll go through, the man ended up living till 97 years old. And he
That's what I'm
broke
saying.
records. People like, we'll talk about that in the next episode as we talk to him.
Do you think it was because he ate of human flesh and thus gained their powers?
Well, you imbue the souls of the others and can potentially, like, further along your youth. All the rich and famous people do blood transfusions with young people blood.
Should I be eating my friends and enemies, I guess?
Only the young ones, though. Only the young ones.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the basis of every conspiracy theory actually happening right now, which is pretty messed up.
I know.
That's like literally all of the thinking that it took to get there for like anyone
at
any point during any of this.
Yeah.
Dude, that's my favorite thing is like when people come at me, just ask a question and watch them unravel because they can't answer because they don't think past that point. Once he was back on his feet, Packer's kind of similar. He was more worried about the immediacy of finding another job. So instead of becoming a miner again, he went to a nearby small town known as Sandy, where he began working as a smelter. And he was smelting copper, which meant during that job he got, quote, leaded again. He got lead poisoning a second time. Yeah.
That feel when you get leaded again, dude.
Yeah, man. When you get leaded again, that's what he said. I got leaded again.
I've got leaded again, dag nubbit.
From Packer's own future testimonies, he said the lead, quote, throwed me into fits. They thought I was gonna die. So yeah, I don't know what lead poisoning actually does to you, but I know it's not good. Potentially makes you a violent serial killer, but that's all I know.
Is that real?
Well, there's a theory that serial killers were very prolific in like the time period because gas had lead in it at the time, and lead poisoning has been known to potentially cause violent, angry temper changes and stuff. And yeah, there's a theory that funneled into the massive amount of serial killers we had for a couple of decades there.
What a great world this is.
I know, isn't
what
it
a
fun?
wonderful place.
Well, now it's all unleaded, so we're fine. The
That's
microplastics aren't going to do anything to us, boys. Come on, we'll be fine.
Nope, I'm doing great.
So now that he was leaded again, the local Sawbones, Dr. McCann, treated him with a liberal amount of castor oil. And if people who don't know what castor oil is, it's really just a vegetable oil pressed from castor beans. It's colorless, pale yellow, and it's supposed to help with like making you poop. It's like a digestion thing for the most part. So I'm not quite sure how it was supposed to help him with lead poisoning, but that's what he did. I mean, and if you don't know what sawbones are back in this day, doctors were like jacks of multiple trades. They were like, they were what do you call them? You would take them to the barber shop to get like surgery and shit done. People who were barbers were also surgeons, and it was a wild, scary time for me.
I feel like when you call somebody a sawbones, that's like when you call one guy a chef and one guy's the guy behind the meat counter at the grocery store who's making you a turkey sub. You know what I mean?
I guess
I feel like that guy's the sawbones.
The guy over there, the sawbones. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And Packer, after receiving a lot of castor oil, I guess, was on his feet just in time to get his hands on a newspaper that was spreading the word of the latest silver strikes out in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. And at this point in time, where we're at is 1873 by now, and fall was in full swing by the time he got news, with winter not too far out, and the call of San Juan being too tempting for him not to heed. He knew he needed to get there quickly to have any chance at claiming the treasure before it was all claimed by others. And Packer quickly met two travelers who were just serendipitously heading out to San Juan themselves because they, quote, had no reason to go any other place. Like they just were like, hey, whatever, it's fine. We could go to San Juan, we could go anywhere else. Everywhere's kind of the same for us. And when he found them, he went and offered them help as best he could. He could help along the trail as well, along with like hunting and stuff, because he was broke. He had no money to offer, no way to pay his way, and he was willing to do whatever he could, and claimed to know a considerable amount of the country and could be a useful guide for them to help pay his way.
And nobody could fucking Google it because nothing existed like that.
Exactly. Bob McGrew and George Tracy were the two that he approached, and they were very impressed with not only how ambitious he was, but how healthy he seemed. To them, he seemed like a healthy young man who would be able to help them in the harder things and be a really valuable asset to their caravan moving forward.
They mistook the like maniacal activity of a lead mad, like illiterate,
again, it's not
crazy
quite,
person.
Like, because it's not quite, you'll see, like he annoys a lot of people, but he's not Boone Helm. And that's important. Like, it's different.
He's not brash.
No, he's just dumb. He's very stupid. That's really the big problem.
There you go.
So since they were impressed, they decided that's fine. They'll take him along, and they paid his $50 grub stake. If you don't know what a grub stake is an amount of material, provisions, or money supplied to an enterprise, or in this point, a wagon. They basically just paid for his supplies to come along with them. And that's like the term they used back then is, hey, if you got a $50 grub stake. And after that, Packer was part of their 2-wagon caravan. Their plan was to stop by Salt Lake City. They're going to stock up on provisions. And by the end of that visit, the caravan was 19 people strong, all headed to the promised treasures of San Juan, Colorado.
And that's how YouTube works right there.
I'm trying to figure out what you mean by that. I guess so. Like you walk into a city and you meet.
He ended up with a caravan of 19 people based off what? A wish and a dream and a nickel?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. And shortly after the 19 people departed Salt Lake City, heading north to Colorado, 2 more prospectors ended up joining them. A man by the name of Preston Nutter, one of my favorite names I've ever heard, and another by the name of Oliver D. Lutzenheiser. Another German, just like last time with Boonhelm, the German that joined. But Preston Nutter is my favorite. Nutter was openly concerned about their provisions being too low at the start when they joined, but Alfred Packer reassured them that, quote, he knowed all the country, and reassured them that they'd get to their destination, which was about 400 miles away in 20 days' time, no problem. He was going to take them 400 miles, 21 people, in 20 days, no problem. And everybody fucking believed
400
him.
miles, huh?
Everybody was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He said he knows.
Before 1915, you couldn't do a simple division problem. I swear to God.
Well, if somebody says they knowed all the country, then I guess you just have to take them at their goddamn word.
400 miles in 20 days.
Yeah, man. No problem. It not an issue at all. It didn't take very long for one of the 2 new folk, Oliver, to start disliking Packer a lot. He said he found him irritating, greedy, and accused him of hoarding the rations. In an example he gave, he said, when the flour began shortening in supply, Packer would build up a fire, bake up a great cake of bread bigger than a dinner plate, and then shove it under his coat and sneak off with it to eat because he didn't want the others to jeer him for his greediness. The dude was just making a huge loaf of bread and like a cartoon was like, I'll shove that in my fucking coat and I'm just going to fucking, and then you just hear munching in the background before having a seizure and going to bed. It's just fucking wild.
How could they be like, gentlemen, we'll see you in 20 days?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I would have beat this guy's ass on like night 2 and been like, we are out of here, my man.
Dude, a few people really, really wanted to beat him. Trust me. Bob and Oliver both claimed that Packer had an uneasy interest in just how much money everyone was carrying on them as well, constantly inquiring to see how much people were carrying on them at the time. Just like he would just ask people consistently, hey, how much gold you got? What do you got? How much money do you have? Oh yeah. Hey Jim, how you got? How much money you want? And just ask people how much money they had.
And they would respond, or would they be like, shut up?
They seemed like they would respond. Yes, he would. And it was a consistent annoyance to them. It was very, very weird. And it was very suspicious. But Bob McGrew, the man who kind of took him on and initially, didn't really ever dislike Packer and didn't really understand why other people in the caravan didn't like him. He had a soft spot for Packer. But he also was aware at this point, as was everybody, of Packer's epilepsy. And he truly, I think, kind of had was empathetic for that reason and felt very much bad for him. For McGrew, the discovery came one night early on when they camped around the fire, and Packer suddenly, they said, had a wild look in his eyes as he stared on, before shortly after falling over partly into the campfire while convulsing so hard that he knocked a coffee pot over where the water splashed onto the hot coals, causing a steam that then scalded and burned in a freckled pattern all over his face and eyes.
Holy shit. Why did this guy decide that the job he should have is to lead people into the wilderness?
This was before the other two joined him, so he had plenty of time to be like, you got to go back, man. Salt Lake City's like that way.
Like what? Yeah, like, okay.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, no shade for being an epileptic person, like having epilepsy. Just if you've got it and there's not a pill you can take every day,
maybe don't be a wildlife guide in the 1870s.
Don't tell him what he can and can't do, bro.
You're right.
Yeah, you can't stop him. He's fine. Damn it.
He's gonna put that flesh between his mouth like an orange and smile at you.
I don't want to tell him. I just want to advise. I just want to have at least said my piece before he leaves, man.
It feels like that scene in my mind is like from a cartoon where it just falls in, knocks the pot, water splat, like the just Acme chain of events. It's insane.
He starts to catch on fire.
Yes, he fell like partly into the campfire, like himself, and then convulsed in the fire.
Even if he's taking these people out here just to rob them, which it seems like maybe, well, just based on him being like, how much
from their perspective, absolutely.
Yeah. How much money you got? How much money you got?
Yeah.
And then this dude like falls into the fire and like almost dies, like right out the gate.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, this guy's cool. I like this.
Yes.
No, we should do this.
Well, McGrew was.
Yeah, we should do this.
One of the early caravan members from that incident yelled at McGrew saying, "You're the man who invited him in. You fucking take care of him." And they wouldn't let him sleep in any of the other wagons. He had to sleep with McGrew from that moment on, which was right early on. So they did not want him there. It was McGrew who was in charge of the caravan that just decided to.
What did he have on this guy? What did he have on
I know,
McGrew?
right? I don't know, man. You'll see why I think he has like such a tender heart for him here in a second. Because after Parker had kind of come to and was taken care of, Packer told McGrew that what just happened was the first time anything like that had ever happened to him. And then from that point on, they happened regularly. And he claimed to McGrew this was a new thing. He had never suffered seizures before. So he just lied about it right immediately.
What the fuck? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, he's not even like, oh, I know it happens. Please try and save my life if I fall into the fire and knock scalding hot coffee onto myself.
No, he was like, oh man, that's weird. I've never had that happen before. Ooh, I hope that doesn't happen again. And just has like another one.
Holy fuck.
It's insane, dude. He just lies and lies and lies. But McGrew was like a caring and kind man. And his big old heart remembered that often when he was talking about it, he would just remember that often in the middle of the night while he was rooming with Packer would wake up to head outside to go to the bathroom. And then when he would return into the wagon, occasionally would fall into a seizure on the wagon, oftentimes nearly on top of McGrew. And every time McGrew got up, picked up and cradled him and kept him safe until the seizures ended. And then he gently put him back to bed.
Did he like lose a son to epilepsy?
I don't know. It's what it feels like. But he was
just like a good guy.
A good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
If he was a good guy, he would have sent this motherfucker back to town.
Well,
the dude fell into a fire, knocked a coffee pot of scalding water onto himself, and permanently disfigured himself. What's in his best interest? Take him out further, see if he ends up being a good guy.
If you take him back to town, he's just gonna end up going someplace else, and you won't be there to help him next time.
400 miles in 20 days. It's worth it, guys.
That hero complex, the savior complex, took over for him. He had to help a wounded animal in his mind.
Just wild.
Throughout the journey, it eventually was also discovered by the others in the wagon crew that Packer had spent 9 days in a county jail in Salt Lake City before. And we don't know if it's true for the reason, but the reason that Packer gave him was because he was found with a prostitute. And so he was put in jail for 9 days.
Salt Lake City. I mean, that checks out.
Exactly. See, that's why I'm like, I see that. But this
found
only
with a drawing of a prostitute in Salt Lake City.
Oh, what now? This little piece of information only hardened Oliver's distaste for Parker at this point, saying that it showed that Packer, saying that it showed that Packer had very little character and was not trustworthy. It just kind of added to the whole, like, I don't trust this man. He too sus. But they were stuck with each other at this point, at least for now. And while Packer promised 20 days, how long do you think they were in the wilderness for, gentlemen?
40 days, 40 nights.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. 5 days?
No. He promised them 20. They were in the wilderness.
Oh, they stayed. They continued. They followed this through to the end.
It got to the point of no return for them. There was no going back after a little while. By the time they realized he might not know what he's doing, they were committed.
They were about to start leaving
They
the
were
camp.
fucked.
They were about to pack up after he fell into the fire and poured scalding hot coffee onto himself, and then they all went home safe, and nobody got eaten by him, right? That's what happened?
Yep. Thank you to Talkspace for sponsoring today's episode. And everybody gets down, man. It's all right. Take it in, feel it, let the emotions run through you. Society has this way of making when people feel down or sad, make it feel like a personal failure or a flaw. And it's not. It's just called being human, and feeling emotions is part of the human experience. And if you need somebody to help you guide through it, or just talk to somebody about what's going on in your life, whether good or bad, then Talkspace has your back. And if you think seeing a therapist or psychiatrist would be helpful, but you don't have the time to actually find one or meet with them or afford them, then you should definitely try Talkspace. By doing everything online, Talkspace has made getting the help you want easy, accessible, and most importantly, affordable. It's incredibly convenient to have virtual sessions with your licensed therapist from the comfort of your own home. There's no need to commute to appointments, miss time at work, or line up childcare in order to attend sessions. Mental health is made easy, and it can be made your priority. Talkspace lets you send messages to your therapist so you don't have to wait for your next sessions, and therapy can help you shift your perspective on life, find tools to cope in difficult times, and of course, just be a guiding light if you need one. And as a listener of this podcast, you're going to get $100 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/chill. To match with a licensed therapist today, just go to Talkspace.com/chill. You get $100 off your first month, and you get to show your support for the show. Thanks again to Talkspace.com for sponsoring today's episode. And remember, that's $100 off in your first month at Talkspace.com/chill. How long do you think they were in the wilderness for, Alex?
Fucking 3 months.
Bang on. 90 days, 3 months. They were lost in the wilderness before they would find any sort of safety from the wilderness itself. And it was only through the kindness, by the way, of them paying Native Americans that they bumped into to guide them further along their journey, because they were entirely lost. So the only reason they made it as far as they did was because of the kindness of the Native Americans and willing to help these people. But they also noted that they would only take them so far, often stopping short because they would say that the tribe that was further on was hostile with their tribe, and they wouldn't cross the boundaries because it might start a war. And this is when they actually found a bit of safety during one of these moments where their guides had stopped and they went on anyway, even though they were warned not to go on because the Native Americans in this part were very hostile toward, settlers. But they moved on anyway. And on January 25th of 1874, while the men were famished, near starvation, and dying was kind of within view for them, they began debating if they need to kill the horses at this point for food, because if they didn't, they may die anyway before they get anywhere. But before a decision could be made, the group found themselves very quickly surrounded by the local Ute Nation, quote, whooping and yelling, all wearing war gear array. They were scared for their lives, but one of the wagon members, by the name of Frenchie, spoke Spanish and was able to communicate with the tribe.
It's ironic.
I know, right? He was able to speak with the leader by the name of Ure, and he explained to them that they had no intentions of settling in the area and were just transient fortune hunters trying to move on to the gold mines further north.
Hey, me too.
Isn't that the life story of everyone? Move on. The gold mines further north.
Oddly enough, Ure found this as enough that they weren't clearly trying to settle. He saw how famished and weak they were and saw no threat, but also knew that sending them further would be their deaths. And he warned them that they should just stop until winter is done. All the paths at this point were covered in snow, and they couldn't even see where they were, on the road, so to speak. And so instead of taking them further north, he guided them to an area with fresh water, enough grass spread across the ground, even in the winter, for the animals to eat. And he would help with provisions over the weeks as they waited for winter to end, to help get them through and survive so that they can get to Colorado when everything was more travelable, more able to be traveled. They again, surprisingly, gave them a helping hand and wanted to help them. But this didn't last long, unfortunately, at all. They all set up their tents and their little places to sleep. But after about a week, Oliver was already getting restless and so too were a few others. And despite repeated warnings of traveling in the harsh winter with fresh snow covering the trails by Urey, they were so determined that they were going to go out anyway that Urey decided to give them the best directions he could to the closest cow camp that the American government kept for the Utes as part of a treaty signed in 1873. That was about 60 miles from where they were. And so he basically kind of drew out in the snow and stuff and in the dirt, where's the best way to go? Jesse, you look like you have a question.
I'm trying to think of how many miles a person would normally. I know, like, if you're in the army and how much like a normal march would be, but if you're just like traveling,
yeah,
if it's 60 miles away, how many miles normally are you doing a day in the snow? You know what I mean?
And are you on a road, or are you like in the bullshit?
They might be on a road to start, but very quickly they did not and were not able to keep the road.
They just followed a man who can't write his name into the woods who had never been there before.
Yeah. And while it's not part of the script, I'll quickly let me go to this part first, is that again, he convinced Urey just to give him directions to the closest area that would be with settlers. And so Oliver and a few others packed up and left, heading in the direction that they were told. And Packer wanted to go with them. So he quickly packed his things as well and began to follow right behind them. But they didn't get very far before Oliver turned around, drew his 6-shooter, pointed it at Packer, and said if he saw him past that point in the mountain up ahead, there'd be trouble, and he should go back now. It stopped Packer dead in his tracks, and Packer went back to the camp. Yeah, he had no interest in, he hated Packer, just hated Alfred Packer. And he went back.
I would have been this guy.
Yeah, Packer was like, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna head back. That crew did eventually come across the closest cow camp, but it was only Oliver that made it to the cow camp, and he led them back where the others were trapped around a dying fire, all skin and bones, barely surviving with what they had. So they only made it because one person had enough energy to get the rest of the way and got to that cow camp. So they did survive, but only just goddamn barely.
Holy shit. Like, God damn, I can't believe this is like what it was to like travel at one point.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It sounds like a fucking nightmare. I would
like some parts of society are like fully there.
And you know it too. Like, in
Yeah.
this time period that making this journey is life endangering, very life endangering, but the promise of a better life, especially compared to living where in a developing colony area, is it's too much for people because it's just, in a lot of ways, it's kind of propaganda-y, obviously, because they're trying to draw people there to settle in. But by the time most normal folk got there who didn't have the means to go right away, all the good claims were long gone.
Right.
I mean, we saw that in the Boone Helm story when he arrived.
People just didn't hear a fucking word back from the fucking area.
Yeah. They just
thought it was still good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to know a lot of the time. And people, I mean, the people who did this Dahmer party, same idea of deciding to go during the winter, even though they were told not to, and no wonder they all went into cannibalism, which is, we'll definitely talk about the Dahmer party eventually. But Packer, when he finally got back, was still very restless and wanted to leave as well. He was anxious to get there. And so were a few others amongst his camp willing to go with him. And so 1 week after the first group of people left this little encampment, the second week of February, to give you an idea of how in the middle of winter they are right now, they're in the second week of February, Packer and 5 others packed up their things and planned on following the trail the previous party had left. Again, it's been a week. The trail is not really even there anymore. They waited so much longer, but that was the plan. The 5 other people that went with him were Israel Swan, George California Noon, Frank Reddy Miller. Yeah. I knew that one.
I love these names.
Yeah, California and
California. Hey, California.
That was his nickname because that's where he came from. So that was the nickname they gave him actually.
Yeah.
That might be the only dude they'd ever seen from California, if you think about it.
Also probably true. True.
Where was Frenchie from?
I don't know where Frenchie was
Texas.
from.
Yeah.
Probably. Then there was Frank Reddy Miller, Shannon Wilson Bell, James Humphrey, all being led by none other than Alfred Packer. They all left the camp not long afterward, and it wouldn't be until April that any of this party was seen again. So from February till April, they vanished. Nobody knows where they went. They got lost. It wasn't until the early hours of April 16th, 1874, that was, quote, like a spring morning, Alonzo Hartman, one of the Los Pinos Indian Agency employees, was out gathering firewood. While he was out gathering the wood, he noticed, quote, I noticed a man coming down the little creek walking leisurely on the ice. This man carried a Winchester rifle in one hand and a coffee pot in the other. That, as it turned out, had live coals in it to start a fire. Of course, this was none other than Alfred Packer, who now sported a long, scraggly beard and long, unkempt black hair. He quickly took Packer to his bunkhouse where the other members of the agency got him food, comfort, and began to ask what happened. But each one of the agency members has a different memory of what this man looked like. One man said that he looked like he was well-fed with wide eyes. Another man said he looked like he was on the border of starving to death. Another man said he looked relatively normal, but his eyes were hollow and dark. So we have a mixed account of what he even looked like coming out of the woods. Varying different reports. And I wonder how much of it is influenced by what they ended up learning, what went down. Like the guy who said he was well-fed, he's saying this after he already knows what he did, what Packer did, how he ended up living, and the cannibalism that ended up happening. He's talking
from hindsight, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what's the real answer, and unfortunately we won't know. But the story that Packer gave when he was asked what happened was a very, very simple one. He said that he was with 5 other men before he himself became snowblind and footsore. So the other members of his group left him at camp while heading to find a settlement, but then they never returned. So he decided, after he felt good enough, to get up and try and wander to safety, looking for the people that he had lost and hopefully finding somebody to take them in. And the man who first saw him out there near the creek and brought him to the bunkhouse, Alonzo Hartman, this man is a direct descendant on his mother's side of Daniel Boone.
Whoa.
Like a weird, just to give you
an idea. You might as well have said he's a direct descendant of Batman.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's on his mother's side, and it's just one of those moments where you realize how very few people were living in these areas at this time, how easy it was to bump into other people that are part of other stories. I wouldn't be surprised if you bumped into somebody who bumped into Boone Helm at some point. However, after giving that story, it wouldn't be long before it started getting into question, because all the while he's being taken care of in the bunkhouse, over in a Ute Nation village, wandering and drifting down the nearby creek, a young woman finds a piece of something floating toward her.
Stop.
She bends over and picks it up and realizes she has the detached arm of a human being in her hands.
Holy
And that's what we'll pick up next episode, learning what happened during those, February, March, April is 2.5 months. What is true and what might be lie. And if this man killed these people prematurely or he truly waited for them to die. We'll find out next week, everybody, in the final part.
Oh my God.
Of this episode.
All right.
The 1800s are wild, man.
It's a whack time. It's a whack time.
It is a whack time.
It's a jack whack of a time.
Yeah, do you guys think this man is truly, before we move into the next episode for next week, do you think this man is truly nefarious? Or do you think he is a man who just is kind of dumb and did some dumb shit and, much like Boone Helm, stupided his way into survival?
I'm worried it's that. I'm worried we're going to find out that in the comedy of errors, he tripped and fell and hit the edge of a table, and a knife was on the table and it flew up and stabbed one of the people. And that person fell forward and knocked the guy into a buzzsaw, and that guy, the blood went everywhere, and then it hit the people and they're like, whoa, and they fell off the back of a cliff or something. I'm worried that's what's going to happen.
All into a pot of boiling water.
Yeah. Again, I love that he came with the coffee pot in hand, by the way. He wandered in. Oh, God. I will say this, with what you know of his silliness so far, next episode, much like Boone Helm, he decides to go on the run from the law.
Question: did he or did he accidentally like get his foot caught on a rope that was pulled by a horse, and then the horse pulled him away from the police? And they're like, he's running. Like, is that?
I can neither confirm nor deny that's how it happens. But he succeeds, and the cops can't find him for 9 years.
9 years? Oh my God.
No one can do nothing at this time. You could just hide in a fucking closet. You'll be fine. No one will stop you.
Well, boys, it's fun to be back into some true crime reality. Thanks for joining me on this. It's a little bit more fun than a modern day serial killer. This has got that Boone Helm flavor. We'll be back next week with the finale episode, a nice little story, and I'm excited for it. Please, guys, if you enjoyed this, let us know on rating us and dropping us like little reviews. That stuff still really, really helps. I noticed we have almost 4,000 reviews on Spotify, and we have a 4.9 star average, which is freaking awesome. I also noticed all of our listeners are also from all of your podcasts, which is great. Cox and Crendor and Super Beer Bros
right.
and stuff.
What's
it's
up,
like
guys?
the same audience. We're all the same. It's
What's
great.
up,
We love
folks?
you guys. We appreciate
But
you.
what if we got more people?
Tell your friends.
And what if
I would
they
love
were
more
like,
people.
hey, my friend Janet, the sexy redhead, is super into you, Jet. Like, what if though?
All right. Well, we're going to end that there. Thank you guys so much for listening
That
to this
was the
episode.
line?
Patreon.com/Chilluminati
That was the
pod.
line?
Patreon.com/Chilluminati pod. Patreon.com/Chilluminati pod. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by the... I don't know who they are. There's two... What? Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer.
No.
Neo and Trinity.
No.
I don't understand, and I probably never will. Let me just tell you right now that there's two... Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield.
I'm telling you, I think he literally just looked up famous duos
Cheech and Chong.
and has just been going through the list ever since.
I'm trying to dig deep. Which one of you is Dick Powell?
Me? Your name's Jesse Cox. I want Chilluminati. I want my maker. I want Chilluminati. I want my
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by Alex and Jesse. Like a shooting star across the sky that's actually a UFO.